Several years ago, I came across a devotional that I would get emailed on a daily basis, and it was through Ron Hutchcraft Ministries. And tonight, I would like to share with you one of those devotionals, and it's titled "Punching Holes in the Darkness." Now, I don't know if you've heard of a book called Treasure Island, or another book, Child's Garden of Verses. Those are just some literary classics written by Robert Louis Stevenson. And he's a writer from the mid-1800s. And he must have had a way with words from the time he was a boy. Anne Grant Lotz tells of a night in his boyhood when his nanny just couldn't get him to bed. And young Robert just kept staring out the window, oblivious to her talking. And finally she said, "Robert, what in the world are you looking at out there?" And as he pulled back the curtain, she realized he was watching the lamplighter making his way down the street, lighting one street lamp after another. Now remember, we're talking about an 1800s writer here, and so they didn't have the electricity, so they had street lamp lighters. And so this lamplighter was making his way down the street. And young Robert Louis Stevenson saw something more. He said, "Look at that man. He's punching holes in the darkness." What an awesome description of the reason God has placed you and me here at this time. We're not here to shake our heads and bemoan how dark it is where we work or where we go to school or whatever our environment is. We're here to punch holes in the darkness. So, how are you doing on that so far? Well, let's listen to what Jesus said in Matthew 5:14 through 16 from the Word of God. If you belong to Jesus, He's including you in this. You are the light of the world. Wow, that's some serious stuff. Think of your personal world and people in your world. Jesus says you are their light. Here he goes on to say, "A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp or put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before men, that they may see your good deeds and praise your Father in heaven." Look, we live in a pretty dark world, right? But it's not a world without light unless the Christian in a situation fails to punch holes in the darkness. By living like Jesus would live there, treating people like Jesus would treat people there, and handling situations and temptations as Jesus would handle them. So many of Jesus' followers don't realize who they are, his personal representative in their personal world. See, you punch another hole in the darkness every time you show up with joy instead of gloom on your face, with good things to say instead of griping. Every time you stop for someone who's struggling, when you consciously put someone else ahead of you, when you insist on taking the high road when it's tempting to cut corners, every time you weep with someone who's weeping, or rejoice with someone who's rejoicing, when you reach out to someone who's been pretty unlovable. See, it's easy to love people that are lovable. The lost folks around you probably won't be all that impressed with your do's and don'ts in all of the religious meetings that you go to. No, they need to see meaningful differences in you because of Christ in you. But it isn't enough that they just see that you're different. They need to know why, or they'll never be able to get out of the darkness themselves. They need Jesus. See, he put you in their life so that they could find out what Jesus did for them on the cross. So they could find out from someone who's living proof that Jesus is alive and how they too could have a life-changing relationship with him. Have you told them about your Jesus yet? Humanly speaking, you may be very well be their best chance at heaven, or maybe their only chance. They could watch you for the rest of their life, and they're never going to say, you know, Lee's such a good guy. I'll bet Jesus died on the cross for my sins. No, they're not going to figure it out that way. I have to tell them. Every morning before my Lord, I'll say to him and to myself, I am the light of the world, and I will go out and show a harsh and lonely and self-serving world that there is another way to be. Defy the darkness wherever you go. Punch holes in the darkness with the brilliant light of Jesus Christ that lives in you. Know that I love you and that I'm here for you, and you can contact me.